I'm hoping that you will be hooked on zines. If you have made a zine before, also welcome. I hope you just come for a nice little 1 hour time out to get creative and have a bit of space for yourself. Um, well, actually, I'll point out there's two cameras I've got on. There's this one here, which is me talking. I've also got a little mini one. You can see my giant hand there waving. Thank you. There'll be a point where I show you how to fold kind of one-page jeans that got the two cameras there for that. How the session's going to run, I will kind of give a very, very brief potted history of zines, show you a few zines in my collection, show you a little video, and then we'll walk through how to fold a one-page zine, and then we'll get making. And I'll probably chat along, or I can keep quiet, whatever works best for you, as we're kind of going through some stuff with some prompts. You might have already come with some ideas. You might be just like, I have no idea at all, but we can have a little discussion if you want to. What was the other thing I was just going to say then? I can't remember. But yeah, anyway, zine making. So I think with zines, there's never really like a clear history of when zines were made. Because like in terms of like political pamphlets have existed and kind of that kind of literature since printing presses existed. And then a lot of people say like zines were kind of born with the Harlem Renaissance and a lot of the black writers there, because they printed their like kind of own small press magazines. And I'm the first person to say that black people invented everything, but I think like the zines that I know and love came a bit later on. So I guess it's kind of like just a timeline, and as long as printing's existed, kind of out of mainstream media, other printing has also existed. I'm just going to share my screen as I talk. Not that one. Spoiler. So we were all very technically inept. I say we were all just a bit rusty before. Cool. Can we all see that? Yeah? It's not my face. Cool. So yeah, as I said, this is my very, very brief potted history of zines. I am no way the person and inventor of zines and decide who invented zines or anything like that. But just to give a brief timeline for anyone that's never really thought what a zine is or where it came from. So yeah, zines pronounced zines are essentially what, when it comes down to it, I say are small self-published magazines that can be like any small press, but basically anything that's made for like kind of DIY and not for profit. Because I think now there's a lot of like small press, small press comics, small press magazines. But for me, a zine is something that's made that is not for profit. And that is essentially then any printed matter that is not for profit and kind of the DIY ethos is a zine in my eyes. As I said before, political pamphlets and other things existed prior to this, but I think zines in terms of like a hobbyist kind of thing came around in like the 1920s and 1930s, with lots of science fiction fanzines. And the actual term fanzine was first coined in 1940. So for a fanzine is basically somebody making a printed matter about something they love, which is kind of what I fell in love with zines about. That kind of then saw a rise in people creating that. That carried on through the 40s and the 60s, then kind of branched out to like football zines and music zines, both zines that are really big and still strong today, especially football zines. They're like a really big thing still going on today. But they were kind of like the first birth of like fanzines and people having access and creating more printed matter. Then that kind of moved on into like the birth of punk. I guess is where your more politicized zines came along and having like that kind of political element to it. Obviously, that also access to having like photocopies grew, or having places to print probably helped with that. So yeah, so I said the 70s and the rise of punk saw that huge rise of music zines. And that's where that kind of cut and paste aesthetic came from, which is still kind of used today or imitated today. That follows through like hardcore music zines in the 80s, again with that kind of political element underneath, and then also a lot of comics around the 70s and 80s as well, and like feminist literature and all kind of things like that, which then kind of carried on into the 90s, where we saw a lot more women making zines. So there was a Right Girl movement, which was like a third wave of feminism mixed with punk music. And that saw a lot of people creating zines and kind of with that element of the personal is political, which kind of came from like 70s feminism, but the idea of like writing about your own identity or your own story was in itself inherently political, especially if you're from like a kind of marginalized community. So that's kind of where I think that's where I kind of got my inspiration from zines from. Obviously, with most things with like modern technology, it kind of zines kind of died down a bit with the rise of like internet, web blogs, everyone having their blogger or on live journal, you know, people being like, printing matters out. We're also going to write about it in the instant. It's going to be there, access to everybody. So I feel like they did dip a little bit, but I must say, in like recent 5 to 8, no, probably more than 5 years, 5 to 10 years, zines have kind of grown and grown and grown, and more people know about them. And I think we always kind of do go back to kind of having this like physical thing, something tangible that you can hold. And now people kind of make zines about anything and everything. Like I said, you've still got fanzines, you've still got a lot of music zines, you've still got a big community of football zines, but people use them for all sorts of things. They use them for their art practice, they use them for like poetry, they use them as a way to get like their writing out. They're used again still as like kind of a tool for activism. So they're just used in many, many different ways. And I think that's kind of why I like zines. I like how they can be about anything. Um, they can be about, like I said, they're really nice tool for people who are like from a marginalized community to share their story in their own voice. Because I'm sure you're all aware that our mainstream media is really terrible and is also a place where often people will talk about a community on their behalf without actually speaking to that community or letting them speak in their own voice. And I think zines are a really beautiful way of you being able to share what you want to share. I've got a few examples of zines. Often you get the kind of bog standard size is like the A5 zine. I think that's because A4 paper is probably the most accessible in terms of like printing, in terms of what you've got. So often that size, but they can be kind of any shape or size, like little mini ones, kind of like the one-page ones. That's what we're making today. You can kind of make them as beautiful, as intricate, or as simple as you like. Like this one's been bound with like Coptic book binding. So you can make that and like that's literally how you would make a book. So someone's made a zine that way. You combine them with other things like ribbon, staples. This one's got like a clear front, which I think is really beautiful. So, you know, you can do different printing methods as well. It's like, it's how you want to take it. And like, obviously, like kind of what story you want to share. Um, I did say that I love zines because they're a kind of tool for activism or a way you can share your story. But I also did say earlier on that I fell in love with zines because when people are fans of things, I love reading when anybody's made a zine about something they love, whether that's something that I love or not. So as much as I go on about, yeah, my work's all about like race and, you know, class and all of this, I also just really love crisps. So I've made two zines about crisps, which actually is my best-selling zine and my most popular zine because apparently a lot of other people love crisps. But you know, I also tried to make crisps political. I was like, yeah, crisps are the food of the working class. I think because a lot of people would contribute being like, oh, my mum worked in a crisp factory, and I was like, yeah, you see, it's about class. So you know, zines can be about literally anything, and that's why I love them because they're something you can create, and they can just be don't even have to have a theme throughout. They can just be like your thoughts, or there don't have to be any words. It could be collages. It's like a little space that you create for yourself, and you can share it with people, or you can't. You don't have to. But I just think they're a really fun, kind of joyful thing to make. Even if you are writing about something that is upsetting or anger inducing, they're still, I don't know, they're quite a cathartic process. So yeah, I just really love zines. I'm really passionate about them. Um, so yeah, with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little video that I made that shows you how to make, like I said, the one-page zine, which is like the little ones like this. So that's what we're going to get today. Whilst I'm going to do my tech and share my screen again. It'd be a good time if you have got a piece of paper and a pair of scissors to hand. Grab that now, because when I've shown you the video, I'll go through the little folding section and then how we can work from there. Does that sound good? Cool. Also, after I've shown the video and shown you what to do, if anybody has any questions, pop them in the chat box, or you can unmute and just ask me as well.
Hello, I'm Seleena and I'm going to show you how to make a one-page zine. A zine is basically a self-published magazine that can be about anything and made by just about anyone. So let's begin. You will need paper, scissors and a pen. First of all, fold the paper in half lengthways. Then in half again. Unfold and then fold the outside edges in towards the middle. Unfold the paper fully and then fold in half widthways. Then take your scissors and cut a line down the centre crease from the centre fold. Fold in half lengthways again and then pull the opposite edges away and fold it into a book shape. And now all you have to do is fill your zine with all your great ideas. And there you go. There you have a one-page zine.
Hey. So yeah, basically that fold you can work for most things. Thank you. I made that video in like 2020 in the first lockdown, and I was like, I'm really gonna get into stop motion animation. And after that, I was like, oh no, it just takes too much time. It's too much time. So you've gone from having you cut in the middle, folding it in half, popping it down, and then you kind of push them together. And then when it comes together, you fold it around. Looks like that. I'll do that once more. So you've gone like that, push, fold it around. Then you've got your kind of front page. You get this one. So the idea is you've got your front page, and then you've got your inside. But the great thing about if you use like an A4 piece of paper is that you just print it out like that. And if you fold it in the way that we've just done, it creates this kind of like booklet form. And as I said, it works on any kind of size piece of paper. So you could do like a giant one, you could do kind of miniature ones. Once you've like mastered the fold, you can kind of do anything. You can do a few together and like kind of bind them together in some way if you want to. So that's kind of how you work it. Any questions? Did everybody get that? Cool. Things that can go in your zine as well, I think is really good is you can just, like I said, write, you can collage. I'm a hoarder. You can probably tell by the amount of stuff on my walls. I like things. So like old wrapping paper, old envelopes are really good. Obviously, magazines, newspapers, washi tape is great. Little stamper sets are quite cheap. Stencils, just even like felt tip pens, glue. Basically, I like I kind of keep it analog, and I like have what using stuff that you've got around. I don't obviously some kind of creative practices require specialist tools, but I think with zine making, like you can literally make a zine with a piece of paper and a pen. So I feel like you just use what you've got to hand. Okay, so with that, whilst you're thinking about your folding, I'm gonna give you a few prompts. Did anyone already come with an idea already? You don't have to share it even if you did. I'll pop these in the chat box as well. So obviously the kind of overarching theme of the sessions that we're doing is kind of reimagining a place with a more sustainable future. So I was thinking about, as I said, a lot of my practice comes from making things accessible, but I also really like to focus on joy and things like that. So I was thinking about how you need to nourish yourself in order to create this more sustainable future. I think I could speak for a lot of people I know that like we're all very fatigued and everything seems very hard, and it's kind of like I can't do anything to make anything better. It's like, well, you can't if you're like feeling like run down and like no. So I feel like we need to start at the root, which is kind of nourishing ourselves. um but yeah, so I was thinking like joy is a form of resistance. So like kind of what do you take from joy, so whether that's the little things or the big things. It could be like, I don't know, food you like to eat, places you like to go, a bench you like to sit on, it can be something big or small. Creating for pleasure, finding something you enjoy and doing it purely for enjoyment, not something that, I'm really kind of, I'm not anti, but I like this idea that you have to monetize all your hobbies. There's nothing that you can just do for yourself anymore. Different ways to take care of yourself and what you do for that. Um, New Year is a comfort. Obviously, it's the first week of the new year. So I often think like you choose if and when you want to make changes or try something new, or have a sense of renewal. Because to me, I feel like winter months are cold and dark. We're in the depths of winter. This isn't a time for like rebirth. It's not a time for a new me. It's a time for me putting on all my knitwear and hunkering down and being like, oh. So I feel like this kind of, yeah. So I'm very much like, slow pace, take our time. And kind of like fostering a community, how and why. Again, that kind of nourishing ourselves. We don't have to do everything alone. Things are always better with more of us and working together in a community. So they were just some like kind of my prompts, but you might have come with an idea. I'll pop them in the chat box as well so you can remember what I said. Does that all make sense to everyone? Cool. Oh, someone's already started. See, it does. You naturally started doing that's what happens. Um, Joyful hunkering down sounds good to me. Cool. Yeah, I love it. Like, I don't know, I feel like it is a time of year where it's weird. It's like this whole like restart, let's go. And you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I just need to give it. It's snowing. I can't go, the fact that even like walking outside, I was thinking yesterday slowed me down. I'm quite a fast walker and I'm very like, I need to get where I'm going. I was like, I can't. It's a sign that I need to, sometimes take my time. But yeah, so with that, let's start creating our zines. Um, as I said, has anyone stuck for any ideas? Anyone want to discuss their ideas or share their idea of what they got? Has anyone got any zine related questions? I might be able to answer, I might not, but I can give it a go.
Are you making any zines at the moment? Have you got any work in progress?
No, I feel like I finished a zine last year, but I always have a list. I think because I love zines so much, I've made zines for like, what age am I now? When did I start? Like 25 years. I'm that person that I'm always like, oh, that'd make a good zine. Oh, that'd make a good zine. So I was having an endless list of zine ideas. And then I just never find the time. I could make the time, but I'm too tired, or I'm like, this has to come first. So I think that's for this next year, I'm going to find the time. But I give myself a deadline. So I run a zine fair, and I was like, I need to make a new zine because every year people go, "Oh, what have you got that's new?" And I'm like, nothing. So like, I gave myself that deadline. So I did just make a zine, but I do want to make more zines. I think they don't have to take that much time. Oh my God, a zine of zine ideas. Oh, I've already got that. I just need to put it onto paper. All my great zine ideas, some that you make at the time, I was like, this would be fantastic. And then the next day, you're like, what was I thinking? Nobody wants to read this. To be fair, anything I ever make, zine or art wise, I just make because I'm like, what doesn't exist in the world or what would I like to see? I think that's always a good, when people are stuck for zine ideas, I'm like, what would you like to see that you think doesn't exist? Or what would you want to read or look at? And I think that's the best way to think about what do I put in a zine. Those that have made a zine before, was it very kind of hands-on analog or was it more like made it digitally?
Hello.
Hello.
The zine that I did was basically one of these, the one
Mm.
page. and it was really weird. I was just like, I need to do a zine about what's going to cheer me up. So I just started drawing stuff and like writing things that I saw on Pinterest, those like positive quote things.
I love that.
So yeah, I feel like that's what most zines are about, just like a instinctual thing. You just make it when you, like you say, something that you want to see that you haven't seen done already.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
it's good because like it's not like you're writing a book or a magazine where you need to edit it. You just get it out and it's done. And I think the little one-page ones are really good because that's like you were saying, you put things that gave you like made you happy. You can keep that in your pocket or put it in a book or put it in your bag and you just get it out and look at
Yeah.
it when you need to.
Mm.
You've got one of photos of damaged bus seats. Oh, and I'm very intrigued.
It's a it always stuck out. I think it's a very clever idea, but it's the ones that are like random like that where people have found something strange.
Yeah.
I know in one of the zine libraries that we've got in libraries elsewhere, someone made a little zine about just their frustrations of working with a printer and it just not doing anything that they actually wanted to do. And it was one of those little tiny ones, but it's just so relatable.
Sometimes they're the best ones. Oh, if you work with photographs, what's the best way to integrate them into a zine? It depends on like how what the quality you want. So if you wanted the photograph to look pretty much as when you've taken them, um, it might be better to do it digitally. You could do a hybrid if you wanted to place them in things. So that way you could use people use like programs. I've used like fake Photoshop to put things in and place things out. But also you could just literally print out the photographs if you don't want mine the copy to be better and then stick them in and then scan it in and print it again. So it just depends on what you want to do. Um, I know, oh, I feel like I had one that was just photographs. Yeah, but I know someone who creates all his zines are like photography zines. So I think he just puts them on and like kind of gets them printed, but uses it digitally. But yeah, so it depends on like what quality you want your photographs to look. If you want them to look as is, that's the best way. But if you're not as fussed about that, then yeah,
Oh, cool,
yes,
thanks.
local library.
Yeah, sorry, I've got it's fluey, but
Yes.
I'm also was really interested that yeah, because I really like the photographs in scenes and what you can do with them. I saw one technique which was I think it was with is it gesso and trying to sort of photocopy gesso and then transfer them somehow. I don't know if
Yeah,
yeah, but I haven't done it yet.
but even like if you wanted it like kind of wanted to look a bit more grainy, so like there we go, like risograph printing. You could still get photographs in. This one's a bit blurry, actually. I think the layers. So it's just a kind of case of separating the layers. But like, that's like, that's an actual photograph instead of an illustration, which has obviously been printed in 3-color risograph. So, again, you've got your photograph there, but it's a very different printed and kind of quality matter. But there's different ways in which it okay, depends on the look that you want, I think.
And then another question is, because you said it could be printed out as one page. So how do you figure out how to do them upside down and in terms of the folding is something you just get used to with
Yeah,
time?
I think if you're doing like the one page,
Mm.
what I do is I literally will fold it up and I'll write on in pencil the page number in the right way up. So then if you want to work, you can work like a booklet or you could work like flat lay. But because you've written the page numbers, you know which way they should be facing and which order they go. But then if you're making like a bit of a bigger long form zine, you need your pages dividable by 4. Because if you think you've got like 4 sides, hold on. But even if that was something you were doing digitally, you still need to have those like 4 sides. So this is like I said, I am quite analog. This is like a cut and paste. So when we've made that, they made their pages as individual pages like that, and then I've stuck them together. So you work out your number, and then you've got your front and your back. And this is your inside page and your inside back page. So you kind of like, so you've got 4 sides to every piece of paper. So that's why you need it to be dividable by 4. So then when they're together, they don't follow on, but then like a book, they do when it's printed out. That makes sense. I think there's kind of like often you'll see like tutorials or people like what page number to put it in, but I often kind of work it out and write it down. So I'll know how many pages I've got and I'll put like 1 at the top and the last page at the bottom, and then I kind of work to the middle so you know what your center page is. But as long as it's divided by 4, then you know you can fit it in without having like a weird gap.
Thank you. That's really cool.
Oh, photo transfers using a gel press. Tell us more, Charlie.
Yeah, the gel presses are like kind of silicone printing plates. Obviously, traditionally it'd be like gelatin, but you can get ones that are like multi-use now. But it's just using acrylic paint, you roll it on, and then it works best with like laser printer printouts. And then you sort of place that onto your wet paint, and then when it's dry, you pull away your paper and it like leaves the photo print, and then you can then transfer onto another sheet. So that could be another way of getting photos onto a zine. But it would have that sort of analog feel because it'd be like paint on it.
So that's gesso on one side onto paint on the other?
I don't. You might be able to use gesso on it. I've only ever tried with acrylic paint. So you do your paint onto your gel press, then your picture, pull your picture off, and then you do another layer of paint that's wet, and then you would transfer that onto your zine or whatever you were printing on. I mean, you could print on anything really, I suppose, with them.
Really?
But I think there's plenty of sort of tutorials and things on YouTube for that.
I don't think I've ever asked you, Charlie. Have you got a favorite zine for someone that runs a zine library? Is that a legal question?
But it's a great question, and I actually do, but I always forget the name of the zine. But it's by a comic artist called Ellie Durkin, and she made this zine. I'm obsessed with it. Every time I see her at fairs or anything like that, I'm like, I just love it. And it's kind of comic story about a house that deconstructs itself. But Seleena, you were saying before about zines where they use the sort of see-through paper and like transparencies, and it has that effect. So you're kind of seeing this like house deconstruct itself and all the layers. And then it like becomes a person lying down at the end.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Very cool. Hard to describe, but if you look up Ellie Durkin, I think on Instagram and things like that, I think her artwork comes up.
Does everybody know about the existence of zine libraries? And do they know if they have one local to them? I feel like there's so many within like recent years that I feel like, yeah, they're everywhere now. Where are you based, Natasha? Often you find them in like a lot of like even like council local libraries have them, arts institutions, education places. Leicester. Oh, there must be. There's a Leicester zine fair. I bet someone in Leicester. I thought it was Leicester. I feel like there's a Leicester zine club as well, actually, that might be happening soon.
I get to do well. This is part of the fun of this project. Is that in partnership with Leicester Libraries, we're putting a zine library in every Leicester library. So
Ah,
there's they're coming, but there is the Leicester Zine Library, which is currently in the LCB. It's on wheels, and I wish I knew more about it to tell you more about it. But it does travel around and appear every now and again. Oh, there's a question on the chat, Seleena. Do you know of any good zine libraries in London, specifically East London?
where is East London? London has loads. What's East? Is East like Hackney? Is that East? Sorry. Is it, clueless Northerner. Sorry. In London, so there's if you're thinking big, I feel like the British Library's got one, Tate's got one, Stuart Hall Library's got one. My friend set both of them up. That's how I know. Welcome Collection, they've got a really good one. They had a really good exhibition on zines. I'm trying to think where else in London. Kind of any smaller ones. But yeah, all those ones I named, like I said, they all have one. But yeah, I feel like the Welcome Collection have got quite a good collection. So definitely, I know that's not East. That I do know because it's near the train station where I am when I enter London. But yeah.
We've put a link into the South London Gallery Page Masters Zine Fair. It's one that I've not been to, but I've always heard really good things about.
And most zine libraries don't work like a real library in that you can't take the zines out. Some, I feel like a couple do, but most are kind of like there's for you to go and look. And obviously some are specialists, they'll have like a theme, so the zines will be around that theme, but where others are kind of like a more of a broad collection as well. Anyone need to know if there's any zine fairs near them? Again, I'm obviously northern based, but I know a few.
For that, I feel like I said, living in Nottingham at the minute, I should shout out the Not Zine Fest. It did happen recently, so we're probably looking at 2026 now. But it's a good one if you're in the centre of the country. Do you have a favourite, Seleena?
Glasgow is my favourite. My own zine fest that I run is my favourite, sorry. Then after that is Glasgow. Sorry, I should have said that. But I feel like you can't say your own. Mine is my favourite though, I think. No, I guess yeah, it's stressful because I'm organised, but I like it. It's a nice little but yeah, I run a zine fest called Over Here Zine Fest in Manchester. Which is a zine fest for creators from the global majority. Because as much as I love zines, I feel like now it's a lot better, but back maybe in like my early 20s, they were very male dominated and very white. Whenever I'd go to zine fairs. So me and my friends decided to make a zine fair that wasn't that essentially. But yeah, Stockport zine fair is my new favourite though. That's happened a couple of times. Obviously it's local to me, so again I like that. But that's got a nice atmosphere as well. But yeah, Glasgow is massive, and you get a lot of different zines going on.
Let's go check it out. I wouldn't normally go that far up north to go into a zine fair, but I think now you've said all that.
They have like a really good, I think they get a lot of funding at Glasgow, so they have like a really good program that lasts quite a while. So there's always really fun things going on. And then the zine library itself is quite well established, so that's probably worth a visit.
Making notes over my zine now.
How is everyone getting on with their zines? Anyone want to share what they've got or their idea, their theme, or share like maybe they had this idea and it's gone completely the opposite end? Pop the names of your zines in the chat or your theme or what you've got so far. I did actually start a zine of zine ideas. I feel like I have a little mini section in my notes in my phone, but most of it's in here. In here. So it might be good to get it out there. Oh, we've got a theme ended up on play to create, create to play. Play to create to play. I like that. I feel like that's, yeah. I think as we get older as well, we're probably discouraged to kind of play. So I like that one. We've got Zeno Joy, love it. Oh, started the idea with that things are better with people. Thanks for the prompt. It is hard because you think like, I don't know, and sometimes people disappoint you a lot. I feel like a lot of people are disappointing us globally at the minute. So to find your people and just even if you come together and moan and go, oh, everything's really hard. Okay, what can we do? I think that just gives you a bit of a booster. What else have we got? I started the doodling things that brought me joy. It's in like dogs in coats and hot water bottles. Yep, great things, all great things. I'm interested in knowing more about the Zine Fair for the global majority. Oh, well, Natasha, if you ask, I will do some self-promotion. Hold on, let me find it. Yeah, it's called Over Here. I'll just put the website in. That'll probably be easier than me trying to describe it. Look at me, I don't even know my own website. We usually, as I said, we're mostly in Manchester. We did one in Sheffield recently, like a mini pop-up one. But we're based kind of like Manchester way. We did do 2 last year, but we usually like once a year, kind of towards the tail end of the year, September, October time. Have I even seen that? No, there we go. But yes, it's a nice atmosphere, so it's very nice. Different, like all different types of scenes as well, and workshops, all free. What else have we got? Experiment with making shapes with stickers. There are a couple of vegetables, as I'm pretty obsessed with those. Yep. Sheffield. There used to be a Sheffield Zine Fest. I heard Brexit was coming back, but it's not appeared as yet. But I feel like it still might. But yeah, we did something as part of Migration Matters Festival last year, like a little thing. So we might go back to Sheffield, you know. But there's lots of people making zines and doing things like that in Sheffield. So yeah. Oh, these are all really good ideas. I love it. I love making zines. It's just so good.
A cheeky little plug in the chat to the next workshop, which will be run by Planet Brill, who is a Birmingham-based creative. So you can sign up in the same way that you signed up to this workshop via Eventbrite. And as I said at the start, there's going to be 6 of these workshops, all of them different, all of them led by a creative that's just as amazing as Seleena in terms of making zines and delivering stuff. So hopefully if you are into zines or you want to explore more about zines, then hopefully over this 6-week period, we can put on some really, really lovely content. We are kind of drawing to a close of our session, but if you've got any more questions or anything for Seleena in terms of zines or anything that's been mentioned that you've not had an answer to, now would be the time to whack them in the chat so Seleena can get back to you.
I've just remembered it's not a zine library in London, but there's a place called Rabbit Road Press. See if I can find it quickly. Led by someone who used to run a zine fair in London and is really makes amazing zines. But they do like workshops where you can go and like do risograph printing and things like that, which is always really fun. There's a few of them around the country where you can like learn to print and stuff. Let me see if I can find them quickly.
I would just like to say thank you very much, Seleena. You did an amazing workshop once again, and I think your video that you've made of the felt folding of zine has like got a place in my brain now, and I will call upon it whenever I have to show someone how to make a folded piece of paper. So from us as the No Jobs side of things, thank you very much, and it's been a really lovely workshop.
No, thank you everyone. It's been a lovely evening, and yeah, I hope you've been great participants, and I hope you enjoy your zine making from now on.